Start recording. Okay, so the power of core beliefs.
Very core, man.
I think I had.
Hook it up, baby.
I think I had a couple of your. I don't think you like me. Oh, you want me to fail. You want me to be miserable. You don't care about me. That can be a reaction, but.
Reaction formation.
Mm-hmm. All right. You got anything you want to add, or you want to just follow my lead?
I'm gonna follow your lead or something.
Okay, it sounds good, man. I'm going to lead it. We're going to be like lost in the woods for a little bit, and then we'll find our way and be, look, we arrived at exactly the place we wanted to be, man. It was more of an adventure.
At the end, I just need a nice taco.
Or
That's
burrito.
how I go. Like, it's really simple. Like, maybe some sort of
Some
cream.
salsa.
Some nice aioli, I say. I learned about that. It's great.
Margarita. I like to drink it. It's perfect, man. All right. Let's do it.
Boom.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Shrink Think podcast. We are here again today, as always. I think it would be weird if we were not here.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have an
You
episode
just
where...
tuned in and it was blank.
Yeah. Or that was somebody else. Somebody else was saying, hey everyone, welcome to the Shrink Think podcast.
Yeah, they would be really nice. Real nice and proud. Yeah.
I think you guys would be like, what is this? We should...
Also, I don't think they'd be surprised.
No, that's probably true. They're like, what is... Okay, it's one of their characters, I guess. No, we are going to talk today about the power of core beliefs. And this is one of those interesting topics. It's really, really fascinating for me as a therapist because I can sit in my therapy office all day long and listen to conversations that people are telling me that they've had with other people in their lives about these situations that happen where somebody is saying something like, they're telling this story about like maybe a discussion or an argument, a disagreement that they've had with somebody else. And it's very clear by the things that they're saying that they have a core belief, some like internal belief that they hold about themselves. They probably don't realize that they're holding, that is completely guiding that entire conversation. It's like, and they're usually saying, they're telling the story from the vantage point of like, I was trying to accomplish this, I was trying to do that, and all I'm hearing is, wow, you have a really strong core belief that you don't realize that you believe that you're blind to, and how it's completely sabotaging this conversation with this other person. It's not necessarily that the other person is completely innocent, right, or doing no wrong, but it's that if you're this person with this core belief, you might not realize that you're completely being led by this belief that you hold about yourself. And it's sabotaging your relationships. It's sabotaging your communication. It's sabotaging your ability to even see objectively or see outside of your own vantage point. And that is like really damaging for relationships.
Right. So what you're saying is it would be like a vantage point that you hold so strongly that you might not even be aware that you're holding it. Because from your perspective, it's the only place to hold it.
It's like the only thing you've ever known. And so to you, it's like, this is the way the world is. This is the way other people are. This is what is going to happen.
So I'm picturing like if you were at like a cliff looking out at the ocean and you're talking about the ocean all the time and behind you is a forest. And people are asking you about that and you're like, yeah, I like trees. Oh my gosh, this ocean is so awesome. It's so great out here. Do you see this all the time? Everybody loves the water. And the only thing you see is water. You're not seeing anything. You don't even really, and by the way, I would add in, it's not even really valuable to you to look at other, like you wouldn't even consider it.
Yeah, I think I like that imagery. I think I might modify it just a little bit and
Nope,
say...
you can't modify it. This is my belief.
That would be a core belief right there. Okay. But it could be something like, I'm always wrong. Like just in this silly little example right there. Like if you have a belief that is usually, it comes from experiences in the past where people have treated you this way, where you're always wrong. Let's say you had an older brother growing up. You had an older brother who was always right. You were always wrong. That's always where the conversation went. because this dude just liked to debate, right? Or he was smarter than you, or he was older and he did not want his little brother being right about anything, right? Then your experiences, your legitimate experiences and how you were treated were, none of your points mattered, or you always had to admit that you were wrong and he was right or whatever. So that would be like a core belief based on your experiences that you hold now, right? You don't even realize that. You just think like, oh, that was like what happened growing up, right? But now in this conversation with me, I say something like, oh, I'd like to modify it. Just something really innocuous, right? And you're like, oh, what? I'm always wrong? Like, do you have to be right? I'm like, whoa, buddy. Like, what just happened? Why are you crying on my couch? Well, good thing you're in a therapist's office. Let's talk about this.
Because I'm excited to sit all day. You said that earlier. Anyways, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, so it's like, where in the world did this come from? And now I'm no longer having a conversation with you. I'm having a conversation with this kid whose older brother was right all the time and he was wrong. Except I don't know that, right? Because if I don't know that in your story, you know, in your background, all I see is like, bro, I'm just saying like I want to add another piece to this visual, right, for our audience. But what you're hearing is, oh, so I'm wrong. I can't say anything. Anything I say, you just have to be right, because that's how you've experienced things. And when somebody asserts something over you or asserts something alongside you, this core belief gets activated, right? Because it's like this is how you see the world. This is what's going to happen. So in my visual, it was more like there might be a forest behind you, but it's a ways back, right? And your heels maybe are on the outskirts of this forest, and the cliff is 100 yards in front of you. So there's a lot of space between you and this cliff. And then the ocean's down there, right? You're nowhere near harm. You're nowhere near this cliff, falling off, getting pushed off, except you have the feeling of like, or this core belief tells you, I'm going to get right up to the edge, you're going to push me all the way to the edge, and then I'm going to fall off, and then I'm going to die. It's going to be horrible and awful. That's what's going to happen. In that 100 yards? Like, really? Like, you're safe right now, right? Your heels are by this forest. You know, you could grab onto a tree, not get dragged off the cliff. But for you, because that's your experience, you believe that the only thing, or the way the world works, the only thing that will happen, can happen, is going to happen, is you are going to get pushed or dragged towards the edge of the cliff and then pushed off.
Right. And, you know, as you're saying, the example that you had with the belief, that can take shape a few different ways. And the reason why I want to say that is, so think of it this way. On the way you're presenting, it's kind of more this reactive, like shaming, self-shaming thing. The other way would be, that I can think of, would also be similar, except for you wouldn't say anything. Because if your belief is that you're wrong, now you can put yourself out there. You just won't say anything. Like, the person will be saying things to you all the time, and you'll be like, okay, all right, yeah, that sounds good. No problem. Yep, we're going there. And you're just not sharing anything, because your belief is it's not going to matter, right? So, I guess I'm bringing it up to say, as we're talking about this, there's a few different ways that you could be operating. And I want you to kind of tune in to think about, like, how do I do this? Because we all have core beliefs, and I know some of you out there are like, okay, I would never just go be a victim, bro. I'm not gonna be. That's not what I do, because I'm freaking break the wrist, walk away. Like, I'm in charge, baby. You know. But there's a lot of examples of how core beliefs work, and it is kind of fun in therapy actually, because we don't look at you as disrespectfully as you look at yourself.
Can you say that differently? So
you oftentimes think lesser of yourself than we do as therapists. We esteem you more. So when you're almost like trying to convince us that you're somehow less than,
worse than you are.
Right. It's like, and then it can put it over to like, wow, you know, therapist, you must be not that bright, because you have to understand, I have these disorders. These keep me going. Those disorders keep you going, but you want me to fix them? Like, you want to fix them, but they are driving your boat.
It's like you don't want to carry them anymore, but every time we say, okay, let's drop them, you pick them back up. Why do you keep doing that?
That's my disorder.
It's because like these core beliefs have been the way you've been treated. You know yourself and you know the world through the lens of those core beliefs, or using that imagery, holding those things that you have dropped, right? We're just telling you to drop them and evolve as a person, to believe something different about yourself, that you are more valuable than, or that the outcome can be different than what it has been in the past, which means you're going to have to do some things differently. You have to do some things differently in order to be somebody different, in order to get a different outcome. But as long as you hold those core beliefs and you continue to do the same things that you always have done, you're going to repeat the past, repeat that story, or basically recreate that story that you have experienced in your life and you tell yourself, and you're going to prove your core belief true again and again and again and again.
So this works in many different ways. So like if you think in terms of, I think we probably should give like some just example statements. Anyway, what I was thinking is, I'm a good person, right? That's your core belief. You are that, okay? So that means when something goes wrong, or it could, one response to that could be like in your mind, like, yeah, I would never do that. I don't know why you're telling me about that, because that's not something I would do.
Because I'm a good person.
I'm a good person, good people don't do that, and that's not what happened. It's probably you misunderstanding what was going on when I was being a good person.
Right. Exactly. And so you can see in the course of that conversation, while you and I are talking, I'm saying something, and I might be pointing out, well, hey, Nate, when you said this thing, I felt this way, and that really hurt me or really bothered me or whatever. And you might be thinking, because you hold this core belief, well, that's not possible because I'm a good person.
Right. So then the temptation is to reframe something, or to say it different, say it again, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe you didn't understand.
Right.
Like, let me tell you how this is fine.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, no, it's not fine, right? And so you can get into this battle with somebody else who, and essentially from in this little vignette, you, Nathan, if you're the person holding this core belief, I'm a good person, you literally cannot hear anything that I'm saying because it challenges or goes against that core belief that you don't even know that you're holding. And that's the key part of it, that most of the time when I'm talking about this with clients, they don't realize that they hold a core belief, because nobody, like in this example, I'm a good person. Like, of course, if you have that core belief, like you'd be aware of it because you want to, right? Yeah, that's a good one to have. But if it's something like I'm always wrong, you don't necessarily know that you hold that core belief because you don't want it to be true. That was a painful part of your history with your older brother. It was a time in your life where maybe you felt bullied or you felt small or whatever, and so you moved on from that. You don't want to believe that is what you still currently believe, or that you're still impacted by it, but you are. And so what that usually looks like is fear of that happening, right? So, but that's reflective of the core belief that exists in you. Meaning that core belief exists inside of me, my body, myself, and I'm afraid then that anybody else is going to say and do something that's better than me or putting me down, and you're going to make me feel like I'm wrong.
Which will just keep the belief going.
Exactly, right. That's the power of these core beliefs. As long as we are not aware that we hold them, we will project them out onto the world, onto other people, and then we'll begin to act as though those things are going to happen and react to that.
Right. So there's kind of, as you're highlighting this, there really are probably two main ways that core beliefs develop when it comes to fear or in love, that type of thing. But we're probably talking more the problematic stuff that has to do with fear, right? So, and that happens in two ways, which is implicit or explicit. So, and all I mean by that is like your brain has two hemispheres. Your right brain is more the emotional side. It kind of understands how you want to feel in any given situation, and it experiences everything. And your left brain puts all of that to make it make sense. It drives the boat. It decides what to do, what to say, how to survive. It takes into account the right side, but they can be separate. Like that can be separate. And that's what happens with implicit fear. you get in a situation where you're scared, there's a division between left and right brain, that fear stays in your right brain. And then
it's like it lodges somewhere. It's like a splinter, right? You might not realize it's there. It's not visibly obvious, but dang, that tiny little thing can, right? Like as the whatever fairy tale or the whatever goes, the lion that's got the splinter in its paw, like it can control a very large animal. It has a huge amount of power.
I think of it like right left brain. Like the left brain's like, oh, we pour out water right now, and this like I'm gonna pour this water out. And the right brain takes one little droplet of food coloring that's red. Whoop! You know, that's it.
That's all it takes.
And then you've got a little red water. But you're saying to everybody, like, oh, here's some water. And the other people are looking at it like, my water does not.
I'm not going to drink
I
that.
don't think I'm drinking that. Like, what are you talking about? It's fine water. It's just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So it moves and it affects it somehow. And explicit memory, or not memory, but, well, we are talking about memory, but an explicit builder would be maybe your caregivers, parents, whoever raised you has told you some things like, and this is just an example, there's other ways to get there, but have told you some things like, this is who you are, like which in your world is turns into this is who you have to be, which means that you can't, like a common one is actually you're special. You're a special unicorn flower type of thing. You know, that it's not said like that, I'm just joking around. But then what that means is you have to be special in whatever the situations are as you grow up.
I can't underperform. I can't make mistakes. I can't have a bad day. I certainly can't fail.
Right. You're only going to experience feeling okay when you feel special. So until you do, and you're going to demand that of like everybody around you, and probably everybody, really, because that's what specialness is.
Because it was demanded of you, or at least you felt like it was demanded of you, and so you then internalize that as, okay, well, this is how I'm supposed to treat myself, or I'm supposed to respond to the world by stepping up and being this amazing golden child, performer, whatever it is. And so I'm going to hold myself to those standards, and therefore also hold everybody else around me to those standards. Which, if you know of anybody that's like that, it can be great in some ways, but dang, it's a lot of pressure, right? Because it's nothing you do is ever good enough.
Yeah, I was thinking too. It could even be, by the way, that the parents that have told you that they didn't really do anything wrong. Like for whatever reason, the way that you made sense of it in your mind was that it was no option not to be. Maybe it felt so good when that specialness was happening that you're like, oh my gosh, I have to have that. But it doesn't necessarily have to build from a standpoint of like evilness, you know.
No, maybe you were awesome. Maybe you were very talented. Maybe you were exceptional in a lot of areas. And maybe your parents were just like really, amazed and really like, wow, this is amazing. You're this and you're special and wow, oh, you're so much, better than everybody else your age. It's amazing that you're doing this, just kind of pouring on their love and inadvertently sending these messages.
Well, in that way, maybe what they did is underperform in other ways where they didn't really communicate their love to you in other situations. So you really only got it in one. I mean, and so you're determined to just keep that path rolling.
That's how I'm going to get love.
That's
by
how it's
doing
going to
that.
happen.
Exactly.
Because if I don't do that, that's where the fear is. Then I won't get it, right? So, and that's kind of how to discern this stuff is like, what do I have to do? Like, what things have? Where does life have to be a certain way, or else? Like, there's an or else.
Yeah. So conversely, that's like a positive one. I work with a lot of people who've experienced some childhood emotional neglect, which is essentially people, the caregivers who might have been great, providing for all the physical, tangible needs, and even like provided money for sports or hobbies or whatever, and even showed up to those things, but emotionally didn't provide the kind of nurture and acknowledgement and connection that you needed as a kid. And so ultimately, the result is I am not seen or I'm not cared for in the way that I needed to be cared for. And so emotionally speaking, then those people are sort of taught that I am not going to be, my feelings aren't going to be seen, or my feelings don't matter. And so either they learn not to share their feelings, right, because that doesn't get anywhere, right? Nobody listens and cares, and so I just do
And it's
things.
painful.
It is painful.
Because no one listens and cares.
Right,
You're
right.
wasting your energy.
But at some point, you might want somebody to listen and care. And so as you maybe grow up and you become aware of this, you try to get people to listen and care. But if you're still holding that experience, that core belief or that wound that's associated with it, that nobody's going to listen, nobody's going to care, then I might say something, and if I don't get the kind of response that I'm expecting people to have, then I'm going to fight harder, right? Because I'm fighting against my core belief. I'm not actually communicating with the person in front of me, right? I'm not talking to you, Nate. I'm talking against my core belief. And then I'm reacting to that. And I might come across maybe bigger than I need to. And so then you get actually quieter or smaller, and I see that, and I'm like, oh, see, I knew it. You're not listening to me. You're going to be just like everybody else. You don't care about what I have to say. And in your mind, you're like, no, I do, but you're just not giving me any space to respond. Or it's just so over exaggerated, it's really hard to really know what you're saying. Or I'm afraid of saying anything, right? Because if I say something, you're going to like bite my head off or whatever.
You need to treat me, blah, blah, blah.
Right. So I'm like essentially that core belief that is causing me to recreate that scenario in all of my relationships.
And that can work inversely too. I mean, if the core belief that you're developing has to do with, same thing, right? And so you assume that you're not going to be nurtured, so you don't say or do anything. And then it doesn't happen because
Right.
people don't know that
Right.
what specifically matters to you, and they're doing other things, but that's not making sense to you, and that makes sense to you actually because you're not going to get anything. So it just perpetuates itself.
Right. So and just as we head for home here, the important thing, what I wanted to bring about with this topic was to first of all to bring some awareness to that. If you've had some things in your life that were difficult, and you can say, yeah, this thing happened, or this part of my life was difficult, whatever. Think about how that impacted you and what those patterns or those dynamics were. And I want you to consider that you might actually have developed a belief about yourself and about other people or about the world that you now still carry with you, and you're operating from that place in all of your other relationships. It's not just that the other people are terrible and take advantage of you and nobody cares or whatever. It's you might actually be contributing to that. You might actually be participating in creating that very thing that you don't want while you're blaming other people. But as we like to say, you are the biggest problem in your own life.
So go get that shirt at the swag shop. Have a great day.
Dude, that was a crazy abrupt ending, but I love it. That was great. I was like, oh, I'm like over, but
Yeah.
But I think the point was made.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's and I honestly think it would be potentially too much to keep talking about it in a way, like because I feel like
Beating a dead horse.
yeah, the horse.
Yep.
But we didn't. It wasn't dead.
Yeah.
Although we did kill
We
it.
did kill it, but it was good. And the horse needed to die.
The horse needed to go to sleepies.